Welcome back. So including the playoffs, the Grizzlies and the Warriors, they played each other 11 times over the past 2 seasons. Golden State owns a slight 6-5 advantage. A total of 12 points have separated their matchups over that span. And in their first meeting of the season, that was on Christmas Day, the Warriors, they got the best of the Grizzlies by 14. But if we're putting this on your wing scale, right, Perk?
Yeah.
On a scale of what? Buffalo to habanero?
Yeah.
How spicy is this matchup?
It's that spicy. It's that spicy, habanero sauce style. Because, listen, I go back to and I think about the wordplay. I think about, Draymond Green telling them they got to win banners. I think about Klay Thompson calling Jaren Jackson Jr. a bum after they finished winning. Oh, they don't like us. We don't like them. I think about the suspensions last year, the hard fouls and things of that nature. Gary Payton II going out of the game. This is real.
Yeah.
This is real. And like Memphis say, they running up the chimney looking for the smoke.
Jalen?
And usually what makes these rivalries in the making, so to speak, spicy is the personality of the characters involved. And we know who the Golden State Warriors have been, and led by Draymond Green as their emotional leader in a lot of ways and physicality. But look at Klay. When Klay's doing that, it's personal.
Yeah.
And why do you get personal? Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, and Steven Adams. That's who they are as people. And so because they perform that way, when they're not making friends on the floor, so to speak, everybody they play against is going to be like this.
Yeah.
It just so happened tonight, they're playing against the Warriors.
Well, and if you talk to the Grizzlies, Shanae, they'll say that Dylan Brooks, he sets that tone for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? I see this matchup as the Warriors not letting them change the guard, right? We always think about teams that are coming, the next generation, the next era. Ja's out there as that guy individually, the same way that Steph was out there a couple years ago. I say almost a decade ago, probably longer, individually. So there are a lot of parallels in how these two teams have been built through development, through grit, through all this intensity they play with. And so I think I like it because the Warriors like, hold up, we're not giving it to you just yet.
Right.
And the Grizzlies like, we're coming. And so this is fun for me.
Is it fair to say, and I'm not trying to rush the Warriors out, Lord knows I'm from the Bay, but do you see a little bit of baby Warriors in the Grizz, Jalen?
I don't, because the Warriors were the first team in the modern era to prove that you can win shooting with your best players from long range. In Memphis, their best player, Ja Morant, is just the opposite. Points in the paint, above the rim, spectacular. They do it with physicality.
But the one thing that they do have in common is both of them built through the draft, right? And the culture and the foundation. That's how they got their players. That's where their key guys come from, is through draft in the organization.
Well, the Warriors and the Grizzlies are the second game of our doubleheader, but before that, we get our Los Angeles studios. It is rivalry week in the NBA, and that begs the question as we look at teams around the league. Perk, what's the best rivalry?
First of all, it's not a rivalry, right? When we go back to thinking of like the 90s basketball, those were rivalries. Right now, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say the Heat and the Celtics, just because out of the last 3 years, 2 out of the last 3 years, they played each other in the conference finals and went on to represent the East in the finals. And it's I like the battle between Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler, but it's no rivalry.
Even that feels like there's a twinge of historical aspects that you've been a part of some pretty great rivalries, Jalen. What makes a rivalry so good?
Well, distinct hatred for your opponent, regardless of the year, regardless of the record. And that normally happens in college, for example, like a Michigan, Ohio State. In the league in the 80s, for example, and forever it's been Lakers versus Celtics. But I agree with Perk. They don't currently exist in theory because players move around so much, but also they do a lot more fraternizing, and you get a chance to play for a team during a shorter period of time. So you're not about to piss me off because we might be teammates in another year or two. So with that being said, I'll say LeBron versus the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
How about that? They did it on the big stage multiple times. They still had the Splash Brothers, and he's LeBron James.
Yeah, I was going to say that rivalries really happen. Why are we caring about the Nets versus the Sixers? It's because of all the stuff that happened, you know, off of the court and how the transactions transpired. But when I think about, like, the player-driven rivalries, I think it's always centered upon LeBron James, right, because of his greatness where he was in Miami and then how the things shifted back to Cleveland and going to the Warriors. And then now, you know, the Lakers need to find a rival because their rival needs to be themselves. Right, to make themselves better. But I do think that ever since, as you mentioned, Jalen, you know, ever since we got out, we're now in this hold me back, bro era, where it's not where things got personal, right? And so with people fraternizing more, I think it's sort of dissipated this idea that teams go against teams. It's more individuals that go against individuals.
Not to mention, we've had a different team come out of the Eastern Conference, for instance, for every single year since LeBron left. So if you see the cream sort of rise to the top and it's the same cream, when they go head to head year after year, that to me is what starts to feel like a rivalry. Now, I think you said it, it's more about players. Oh, it's Ben Simmons versus Joel Embiid. Oh, it's Steph Curry versus Kevin Durant. That starts to feel more rivalry-esque.
Absolutely. Like it's Draymond Green versus Ja Morant, right? Because of the Twitter beef and going back and forth.
Right.
But I love it. Forget all the jersey swaps and all that. You know what I'm saying? Save that for later. But that's the great thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo. He tell you about it. I don't work out with guys in the offseason, and I don't care if you don't like me. I'm going to put up historical numbers, and I don't care if you don't talk about me on Twitter and acknowledge that what I'm doing. That's what I like about
But, Perk, haven't you seen Giannis's jersey collection? It's amazing. I always say that he's a killer with a smile on his face.
But I want to acknowledge two franchises that own not fraternizing. The Miami Heat.
Yes. True.
And currently the Memphis Grizzlies.
Talk about
I
that.
love when they play against opponents, they get down and dirty. In particular, Bane, Dylan Brooks, and Adams. They take it personal against their opponents.
And I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but man, how fun would that be as a finals matchup? For now, though, we're going to give it back to Kevin Nagandi. We will see you on NBA Countdown.
Malika, thank you so much. Did you
Andre, Clay, we got 4 championships.
I strongly believe in the Warriors.
I'm fine in the West.
First pass is a perfect one. Jaren Jackson Jr. Bane for 3. Bingo. Durant. As that shot goes, a 2-pointer for Klay Thompson. Curry a long 3. It's good! Steph Curry from way downtown.
If they're going to be that nasty, I can be nasty too.
I feel like it's safe to say that folks are just a little bit excited for another chapter to be added to the Grizz-Dubs saga, but things are not exactly perfect on either side right now, right? Memphis lost 3 straight games. Starting center Steven Adams now dealing with a knee injury that's going to sideline him for the next 3 to 6 weeks. So Golden State, meanwhile, trying to find a little bit of a rhythm after shaking things up in their starting lineup. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. They still remain 1 game under 500, so it's not exactly championship caliber, at least not yet. Janae, I feel like it's time. It's time for a cheat sheet.
Let's get it. Let's have some fun. All right, y'all. It's time for a cheat sheet, and these cheat sheets are to help you prep for the game. So we've got the Warriors and we've got the Grizzlies tonight. And here's exactly what you need to know. This game will come down to the paint. So let's break it down for both sides. Look at the numbers. The Warriors are experimenting with a new starting lineup that replaces Kevon Looney with Jordan Poole. And although Jordan Poole averages like 26 points per game as a starter, this lineup actually minimizes one of their underrated strengths, which is rim protection. They are allowing more than 10 more points per 100 possessions with Poole playing with the starters. Now, Looney, that just proves he's the X factor, minimizing those 10 points on defense. So roll me my tape producer, Chene, I guess, because I'm controlling with the iPad. Baby, so I want you to watch. This is the first play of the game. The first play of the game. Defenses should be locked in, right? But let's watch Jordan Poole right here. He's right here. You can see him guarding. And so the play goes on. Poole is supposed to chase the shooter. The shooter moves, and he's behind. And that really starts a series of events of switches, multiple switches. Now, the help defense is there. Good job, Clay. Draymond says, go back, Clay, I got this. Another switch. This is all because Jordan Poole was a little bit late. Now watch this. This is shell defense. Shell means that you're supposed to protect the paint. So typically in shell, you have rotations. Clay is already great help side. He's going to come over if the penetration comes. Steph knows he's supposed to have Clay's back. And then Jordan, being the furthest line of defense on the backside, is supposed to come in and have Steph's back. So it's help the helper. Instead, what happens here? It's one-on-one. The drive comes, Clay anticipates it well, Steph does a good job coming down, and Poole just